She was blinking more than usual, and each time she did, her eyes were moister. I wasn't sure if she was intentionally trying to make herself cry, but pretty soon the first tears appeared, and with them her mascara began to run. It only served to melt my heart, and I found myself walking slowly and purposefully to where she sat. Silently, I semicircled her chair and began to gently massage her neck and shoulders. I lifted her long dark hair, and her skin seemed so young. I felt a rush of gratitude. Jen was so beautiful and barely 40 years old. If tears had sound, my ears wouldn't have coped. But she too remained in silence, each tear acting as a kind of suppressant. My presence seemed to offer comfort, but I didn't feel recognised. The tyranny of self had taken over her. Randomly and loudly, Alexa switched on Simply Red's Holding Back the Years. The music seemed appropriate, and neither of us tried to stop it. Her crying intensified. When the track ended, I moved back to where I was seated and felt it best to wait until she was ready to speak. "You don't know what's happened, do you?" she asked. "No," I replied. "He's died, and it's going to be impossible for us for a while." I didn't think his illness was so far progressed. "For fuck's sake, Frank, just say the word cancer when you need to say it." "Sorry." She started crying again. "No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have snapped at you like that." "It's okay," I conceded. "You're upset. I get it. Although what?" he inquired. "Well, you hated him." "Frank, it's still 22 years with someone, day and night." "Yes." She requested I leave, and she'd try to contact me soon. I kept wondering why it would be impossible for us to meet for a while, but I didn't think it fair to push her. I knew how guilty she felt that we'd been seeing each other since the time of his diagnosis. I went home and poured myself a scotch and ginger. I noticed a sense of guilt as I poured, like a teenager furtively fumbling at his father's drinks cabinet, rather than an independent man in his late 40s. I switched the television on, straight to Netflix, to continue the series I was immersed in, then immediately switched it off, realising I was avoiding some necessary reflection. Deciding there would be adequate time to reflect, I switched Netflix back on and poured myself another whiskey, the first having gone down in one gulp. Would we now live the life we enjoyed planning together? Move to a new country, somewhere warmer? Have a family, the family she'd never managed with him? And change career to one we both felt more passionate about? I told myself that I wouldn't exceed one whiskey for each half-hour episode, but after the 4th episode, I must have fallen asleep. The heavy rhythmic knocking on the door shocked me so much that for a few moments I wasn't sure of my surroundings. I ran down the steps of the communal hallway and opened the door to 2 policemen. "Mind if we have a word, sir?" "Is something wrong?" I asked. "Probably best if we talk inside." I took them upstairs and made a quick call to my pharmacy so they knew I'd be late in. "Did you know Mr. John Armstrong?" the first police officer inquired. "Not exactly," I replied. "Not exactly?" the second officer questioned. "Well, it's a little difficult, you see. We need to know the nature of your relationship with him," he urged. "Well, my relationship was really with his wife," I explained. Yes, we'll come to that, but did you ever meet Mr. Armstrong?" "Not to speak of. I mean, I saw him a couple of times across a room, but we never had a conversation." "That's not what Mrs. Armstrong told us just now," the first police officer intervened. "Sorry?" She said that you had talked through the situation together. I'm not with you, I said, puzzled. Oh, come on, Mr. Johnson, we know that the three of you had an agreement. I'm sorry, but I really don't understand. I have been having an affair with Jen, but that's been going on for quite a while, and as far as I was aware, it was a private, a secret affair. Mrs. Armstrong is at the police station now. What? Yes, she's under arrest for her husband's murder, and, well, let's not mix our words. She told us that you helped her do it. I'm sure you know that if this is true, it would be a very serious offence. This is ridiculous. I need to ring a lawyer. I've never heard such rubbish. Can you show me your identification? Where's my mobile? Oh, God! Please sit down, Mr. Johnson. I can see that this may have come as a shock to you. Perhaps you could pop down to the station tomorrow morning around 10. You can bring your lawyer with you, of course. We'll let ourselves out, don't worry. Luckily, one of my close friends, Robert, is a criminal lawyer, and he arrived 90 minutes before we were due at the police station. Between you, Frank, did you ever encourage Jen to get rid of him? Are you seriously asking this question, Rob? Yes, I am, and please use this session in a professional manner. We need to practice being client and lawyer for when we get to the station. The police don't need to know that we're friends. Of course I never suggested she should do it. Not in any way? Well, once we'd had a few drinks and a bit of an argument, and I think I may have said something like, put him in a hospice, or something like that. Something like that? Try to remember, Frank. I need accurate information. Oh, God, I think I may have said, can't you just get rid of him? But put him in a hospice or something. Well, that could be what she's referring to now. It's even possible she's doing some sort of deal with the police. Deal? I questioned. Yes, she gets a more lenient judgment if she gives a little information. Do you know what, Frank? When we get to the interview, I don't want you to say anything at all. We need a little longer to go through our side of things. I can ask them for an extension. They haven't got enough to hold you at the station right now. So what do we do when we get there? You say no comment to everything they ask you. Do you understand? Yes, but Rob, this isn't seriously happening, is it? I mean, this isn't going to be serious. I haven't done anything wrong. It's too soon to say, Frank. And remember, you and I are merely lawyer and client at this interview. Robert was amazing at the police station. I'd always wondered he was good at his job, and now I knew. I kept absolutely quiet, as he'd warned me, and he managed to negotiate more time with me before we returned to the station. He was more relaxed after the interview, but would only see me professionally whilst this was going on. He was hoping to gain more knowledge of Jen's situation before we next met. I was feeling sickened by her accusations, but I assumed they were the words and actions of a desperate woman. How could I be so tender towards her, so blessed to be with her, and now, overnight, so repulsed? Perhaps she had mental problems that I never knew about. She did drink quite heavily. I realised that I didn't even know what was meant to have happened to John. How had Jen killed him? If indeed she had. I rang Bob. His voice was solemn. You haven't told me everything, have you, Frank? What do you mean? I asked him. Go in. I'm coming over now. Frank, Jen's saying that the three of you planned an assisted suicide and that she has John's statement. I told him this was rubbish and asked for evidence. I hadn't anticipated what came next. I'll read what Mr. John Armstrong requested, Frank continued. Dearest Jen, as everyone knows, I probably have less than 2 months to live, and those 2 months will be spent in trying to relieve my horrendous pain. If you really have loved me, and if there is any remaining love at all, then you will ask your pharmacist friend to assist you in assisting me to leave this mortal frame and move on to pastures new. Whenever you reread this, be assured that I have loved and still do love you, even with your pharmacist friend, that I know you only found in order to honour my final request. Till we meet again, with all my love, John.